Okay, I think it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah, sorry about that. We have to go open the doors right as the doors close at 5 o'clock, or right as they lock. I'll do roll call. Committee Member Brown. Here. Committee Member Kane.
Here.
Committee Member Charles is not here, hopefully on his way. Committee Member Chasty.
Here.
Committee Member Sala.
Here.
Committee Member, is it Tiedemann or Tiedemann? Mm-hmm. And Chair Montag.
Here, yeah. So thank you. Item number 2 is approval of the minutes, December 6, 2018.
I have a comment about the minutes.
Tell me your comment.
Near the end of that meeting, there was a brief discussion regarding the overgrown bushes at the parklet at Solano and Cornell.
I remember that.
At that meeting, they had mentioned that they were already discussing the concerns, and now it's 2 months. Well, anyway, so I just want the minutes to reflect that that conversation occurred, because the bushes are still overgrown,
Okay.
and now you have to pull out into Solano Avenue to see up the street. At least the cars are no longer blocking the crosswalk there, but still.
Do you know which item that was under?
It was a general discussion. Jeff Bond
Right, let's see.
it was whoever was here helped me out.
I think maybe it's under future agenda. I think that could have been it.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, but it had to do with the parklet that was just
So where would it be?
approved. It could be,
4-3.
because my point is that we're using
Yeah, so 4-3.
So what do you want specifically added, so make it easy for people?
I think what I heard was that there was a comment made that there was overgrown shrubs associated with the parklet at, which one?
Cornell and Solano,
Cornell and Solano.
that there were safety concerns, being able to see eastbound up Solano. And here it is 2 months later, and
Well, now, that wasn't in the minutes.
Yeah, yeah, so what's the
Got
minute
it,
that was brought up that there was overgrown shrubs and. I
And
don't know if
I'm
there was
actually
an
not
action
sure that it's our obligation to maintain that.
I don't know if there was an action item per se, I just know there was
So
brought up.
Claire, are you going to be doing the minutes, or who? So why don't you do this? Add to the minutes by amendment by Mr. Kane, the following language. Comment, overgrown shrubs at parklet at Cornell and Solano creating safety concerns for views. That do it?
perfect.
So minutes as amended?
So we have a motion with the minutes amended. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion further? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Item number 4, announcements, 4-1, introduction of new committee members.
So you'll notice 2 new faces up here. Some of you guys haven't introduced yourselves, but if the 2 of you don't mind introducing yourselves, say a little bit about your interest in being on the committee and who you are. Do you want to start, Committee Member Brown?
Hi. Well, I go way back in Albany history. My grandfather had a cattle ranch in El Cerrito and then built some houses in Albany. I'm not sure which houses they are. Some of them I know, some I don't. My father had a television store on Solano Avenue. And I left and went to New York for 25 years, was in book publishing, but have come back and lived in Emeryville for a while, but I've returned to Albany, and I very much want to be part of what's happening in Albany and to to contribute something. And my business experience is I have a storefront on Solano Avenue, which is the Everest Kitchen, and some rental properties, and well, that's about it. So I hope I can, be of help here.
So I'm Aaron Tiedemann. I am a lifelong Albany resident. I graduated from Albany High School only probably more recent than most of you, and then left for a couple years to go to school in England. Came back and have, in the past year and a half, wanted to get more involved in local politics in my community, which I do partly through my day job at Alameda County in their Housing and Community Development Department, working on affordable housing. And then I wanted to take a more active role and more direct in Albany and the city, and so here I am.
Great.
Well, welcome both. Thank
Yeah,
you for your
thank you.
time.
Perhaps the rest of us should introduce ourselves as well for the new
Great idea.
members.
Go ahead.
I'm Stephanie Sala. I am also a lifelong Albany resident and graduated from Albany High School. And I still live in Albany, and I own 5 little monkeys.
I'm John Montag, not a lifelong Albany, but I've been here for 20 years, raised 2 children, and one still in Albany High School. I work for the City of Concord in economic development as the economic development manager. And this is my, I don't know how many years now, 3rd, 4th year? I'm not sure, on the committee. So I look forward to working with you all.
I'm Robert Chasty. I'm a newcomer myself to Albany. I've only been here about 35 years. I have served in numerous committees and commissions and a stint on the city council and as mayor. I have a business on Solano. I own an office building on Solano. I'm a local lawyer, and I think Albany is great. I like to serve it.
My name is Alan Kane. I've been in town for roughly 40 years. Professionally, I had a TV repair shop on San Pablo for almost 25 years. And I believe your father's store was one of the first Zenith authorized sales in the East Bay, as I recall. Anyway, so now, of course, the TV repair business decayed. And I am now the executive director of the Solano Avenue Association. We're probably best known for an event that we do called the Solano Avenue Stroll. And I'm happy to be here.
Good, thank you. So 4-2, mandatory advisory body training, February 25th.
There's a mandatory training. We do this every 2 years after the new reappointments as part of this process. There's mandatory training for all advisory body members, so not just those of you who are new, but for everybody, on Monday, February 25th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And it should be in the council chambers. And this feels small to me, so I kind of want to double check and make sure that it's not at the community center. But the thing that we sent out did say council chambers, so if something changes, we'll send out another email.
That's 6:30 to...
6:30 to 8 p.m. Attorney Kat Wellman will provide a training on the Brown Act, and hopefully there'll be something entertaining. But it'll be an important training.
What happens if you don't go?
If you don't go, if you can't make it, we'll have to figure out either a new time for someone or some other way to do your training, like an online module or something. We haven't quite figured that out yet. We're sort of figuring out how many people can't come.
How about you guys have like a little test? People who understand the Brown Act, and they can just fill it out and pass the test and skip the training.
I think the idea is an opportunity for everyone to get together and learn together. So I think it's really good if people can come, that they should come, and if not, we'll find another way to give the training. Things do change, laws change, and so we want to make sure everyone's briefed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
I'll be there, so if you want to stop by and say hi, please do so. But I will be there on the 25th, Monday, so please do come if you can. Our next announcement is an update on 904 Masonic. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with this project, but this is a project that will most likely receive approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission next week. This is a new residential mixed-use property going on at 904 Masonic. For this committee, what's interesting is that there will be a new approximately 1,300 square foot commercial ground floor space being developed. So approval should go through next week, and then we can anticipate, hopefully, construction completing within 18 months to 2 years. So that will provide a new substantial commercial tenant space in a pretty modern building, so.
Is the existing property the one with the, like, brown wood?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's still technically zoned commercial, but this will be a bigger tenant space, should it be completed. Mhm.
You mind just providing a little bit more information, like how many units or what's the?
Yeah, just really quick, it's proposed to have 3 residential units on top of the commercial tenant space. In talking with the property owner, I think he intends it to be built with potential for a restaurant to be established, but obviously that will be determined once a tenant is finalized and chosen.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Do you know if off-street parking is going to be provided or waived?
Per the zoning code for the commercial space, because it's an expansion of new commercial space, the off-street parking is waived for that, but there will be parking for the residential units, yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
So there's been a lot of talk about changes in the state on requirements for housing and overriding local requirements. Do you know what the status of that is?
There are several laws that have helped streamline bigger developments. This particular project is not subject to those new state laws in place. This project does meet the zoning code pretty strictly, so there's not too much of an issue with development for this particular site.
Actually, the question was not about this particular site alone. It was about the general impact of the laws on planning and zoning in Albany and on parking requirements, setbacks, things like that.
Yes, that there are several state laws that are in place. It's more, it doesn't really affect the commercial component, but yes, housing-wise, I don't want to go too deep into this, but there are state density bonus laws that can help. Should you provide a certain amount of housing units, you can be exempt from certain zoning requirements such as off-street parking.
Okay, so maybe for a future agenda, we can set up something, have a more comprehensive discussion of this.
I'll make a note of that for number 7. But I think to the point, I think there has been new law that I think just passed that came into effect in this year that essentially parking standards are no longer required for certain areas, I think, within a transit district. So I think that would be helpful, but we'll address that on number 7. Okay?
So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the next update we have.
Sorry, we had another question.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, I just want to say that I have some experience with those laws, and most of the ones that have been proposed recently are focused on transit development, and they've given, BART a lot of power to develop with, its own zoning and things like that. But it, most of the recent stuff has been around that, so it hasn't been. I don't think it affects Albany as much as it affects other places that are around BART stations and are BART land.
That's correct, yeah.
Any other comments on that before I overlook someone? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So the next, a quick update, 1175 Solano Avenue, which was formerly Cantina del Sol. I actually printed out unfortunately, Cantina del Sol faced some financial considerations that left them not able to continue the business, but the property is looking for new tenants, so if you want to take one and pass it down. I'm just passing around right now the real estate listing for that. So that tenant space is available for lease. The brochure you'll see indicates that the property owner is looking for something preferably in the bakery/coffee market. We'll see what actually does go there, but that's just a quick update on that tenant space if you guys have been wondering why it's been empty for a little bit.
So do we have any new coffee?
Excuse me, we had a question over here. Sorry.
Just a clarification. So Cantina del Sol did run into financial issues, but if Cantina del Sol had started off as a restaurant without the debt from the prior endeavor, which was Cafe Eugene, then it's a high probability that Cantina del Sol would have lasted. But the issue is they started off kind of in considerable debt because of the prior endeavor. That's
Oh,
what it
okay. I
is.
didn't
Yeah,
know that.
Cantina was
Interesting.
healthy on its own, so just clarification.
Thank you.
I was just going to quip that now we're probably going to get coffee houses that do nails, right?
Or breweries.
All right, next.
Oh, next item, 4.5, an update on the Solano Avenue Complete Streets process. This is just a quick update that this will go before the Planning and Zoning Commission this Wednesday, February 13th. Our city consultants will provide a presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission and request feedback, and then afterwards it will go on to Traffic and Safety. So if you guys are interested in that topic, please attend those hearings. Those are the proper hearings to provide input for, but that's just a quick update on that.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Is there a link? I know that the city wanted us to advise the businesses that this meeting was on the threshold of reality. And my response to that was, do we have any sort of link on the city's website that people can click on to find out what Complete Streets is? And apparently that was still under preparation. Is there a page ready now?
Yes, correct. That's a good reminder. So it will be, public information will be available next week on our city's website, and we can send you guys a link if you're interested.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Because I'm waiting for that link before communicating with the street, because 500 emails are going to ask me, what is that? So I
Yeah.
just need a link.
No, that's a great reminder.
Can
Thank
you
you.
summarize it for us?
Thank you.
Oh,
She stole my thunder. It's good.
So there's a website,
Yeah.
right? We can go to it right now. What is the website?
I assumed that it was on the agenda that we were going to get a little presentation on it.
sorry, I didn't mean to steal your
Good idea. I just assumed they were going to give us a presentation on it.
So there's a website,
Announcements.
solanocompletestreets.org. Go to find out more information. And then there's some information about the project, but what will be updated is the draft of the plan
it.
will be updated.
Correct, yeah.
And I will just say, while I can, the consultants that have been working on this have been outstanding. And the communication process has been really transparent, which is great.
I heard that potentially the committee may want to entertain hearing a presentation on this as an item. We can discuss it later as part of number 7, future items.
As Christopher stated, there's really 3 venues for this plan to go through. It's the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Traffic and Safety Commission, and City Council. At a previous meeting, you talked as a group about maybe creating, distinguishing liaisons from your group that would go to those meetings. So maybe that's a conversation you want to have at some point, a future agenda item, perhaps.
Okay, good enough. Any other questions on this one?
I think that as they remodel, that there will be an impact on the businesses that are currently on Solano. And I would like to discuss as a committee how we can support them through, the tough times that may lay ahead. I remember when the first half of, lower Solano or western Solano was done, it seemed like we had a lot of turnover in our business district from it. And I just feel like it's our responsibility to help the businesses that we have get through it, so.
You're talking about during the construction? I think that's a great conversation. I think it's premature. Do you have a sense of the timeline for construction? I'm thinking,
I think it's at least a couple years out.
yeah, I'm thinking like 5 to 10 years out, honestly, because we're still working on trying to get grants for our San Pablo Complete Streets
yeah.
process. So it's probably premature to have that conversation. But I mean, if you have some suggestions, we can definitely agendize it so that we just have something in place for when that comes about.
And we can have a sidebar when they start replacing the sewer main, which is also going to be an issue that will.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we have a
And
strategy.
that's coming soon, so.
So there's a lot of pieces to this that will affect the commercial district and affect businesses in Albany. I think we should have it as an agenda item, and I think we should get a presentation as to what it is and where it's going. And we should have some input to it in the planning stages before decisions are finalized and concrete starts to get poured, or even bids get to go out for proposals.
Well, we can, as the suggested, put this as an agenda item. We can talk about it if it's a presentation or having committees members attend and be part of those conversations to actually have impact onto the process. So let's put that on the agenda for next time for us to talk
Well,
about.
the first meeting is Wednesday. I plan on going. I just checked my
Good.
calendar.
Perfect.
So, but
Go ahead.
There's a big difference between sitting in the audience and then having a suggestion to a body that's deliberating and making decisions and doing planning, from being the body that gets a presentation and organizes a response to it and has significant input as a body. As individuals, you're just a member of the audience.
correct.
So I think we should have some input as a body.
I agree.
But I also heard from staff that we can assign staff or members to those committees or not to participate, just so I understand.
No, you can assign someone as a liaison to represent you. So if there was a cohesive message that you had decided on, you could have someone speak on behalf of the committee,
Okay.
but
thank
only if you decided
Understood now. Thank you.
on that message.
Okay, next item.
So the Albany City Council updates their strategic plan every 2 years after the election. And this January, they held a work session and a study session, both publicized public meetings, and they have an updated draft of their strategic plan, which will be on their March 4th agenda. I don't really have an update on it at this point, but it will be available publicly before their meeting. And then their strategic plan update will ultimately inform your work plan. So we're talking about your work plan today, but we won't do it. There won't be any approval process until we can look at the strategic plan and make sure that those elements are incorporated into your work plan.
Any comments on that? Okay, I forgot to do public comment. So is there anyone who wants to say something that is not on the agenda or speak to an item that's not on the agenda? No? Anyone?
Recording. Thank you.
And can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes.
State your name and
Jennifer
address for the
Hansen.
record.
Jennifer Hansen Romero, Albany resident, lifetime Albany resident. What I was going to say is just on the complete streets, how you were talking about having some input. I've been to a bunch of the meetings, in fact, and also when they had the mock-up in front of Flowerland. So I do think that they're taking into consideration any sort of comments or feedback, and they've had some of this already. So I think it's maybe just something that, like, I would advise if you can go to that Wednesday meeting or something like that. I think it is more of not a presentation to you, but it is an interactive group where they're working together and getting your feedback and getting your comments while they're doing this. So that's how it's been approached so far. So.
Okay, thank you. So that will close public comment from the committee? All right, then we'll close public comment, go back to item 5, presentation on economic development strategic plan progress.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a brief overview of the kinds of things that we've done over the past year or so, and talk about what our plans are for 2019, which will then kind of roll into your separate discussion about your own work plan. So in 2018, we continued to build on the success of events like Albany Local Week and Dinner with Albany. We did some website improvements. We created a How to Start a Business in Albany webpage. We featured economic development much more prominently on the website in several places and made other improvements to resources for businesses. We see this as an ongoing process, so we'd like to continue to find ways to improve our outreach. We conducted outreach to property owners, architects, and commercial real estate brokers to learn what the city practices are, which city practices are working, and what could benefit from refinement based on the user or business experience. We highlighted results at a meeting at one of your meetings last spring, but I have the next slide is a little bit about those results. To address economic development staffing, we established the Community Development Department as the home of economic development in the city for programming and implementation of the strategic plan. And we designated Christopher Tan as the face of economic development in Albany, which has been working well because he often is the first face that new businesses interact with. We developed a brochure to provide information on best practices for facade improvements. We updated the zoning ordinance to streamline commercial development review, focusing on parking requirements. That was passed by council in December. We identified opportunities to enhance commercial corridors, including incorporating high-quality streetscape features into our complete streets design for Upper Solano. That includes consistent signage, outdoor seating, bus shelters, street trees, news racks, and bike parking. We also developed and implemented a bike parking policy, identified news racks in need of repair and removal. My understanding is some have been removed. Public Works worked with the Solano Avenue Association on better maintenance practices of the streetscape. Thank you, Alan. We also streamlined business approvals for by eliminating review requirements for home-based businesses. We improved customer service in a variety of ways as well. We reviewed existing customer service administrative procedures, developed a customer service motto, which is placed in our lobby. Our counter staff receive annual customer service training. We developed a customer service survey, which is placed on the city website and also on a kiosk in the city hall lobby. And I took a look at those results, so I can share those results with you 2 slides from now. Before I move on and talk about, dive in a little bit to the kind of stakeholder engagement and survey results, are there any comments?
This is great.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you talk, if you can, on a broker and property owner engagement? What was that like? What was kind of the feedback? What kind of lessons learned, I guess?
That's my next slide. So we gave I have a larger presentation. When did we give that? I want to say last spring we came. So we had a consultant do all this engagement, and then last spring, maybe at one of the first meetings that Anna and I were coming to, so maybe it was like March timeframe, we gave a presentation more detailed on that. These are so we had a full presentation, but these are sort of the big high-level things that we pulled out. Some of the things that I thought were poignant: Albany is ideal for restaurants and services, but we need to encourage businesses with day and evening uses that have synergy with one another. Hip and exciting retail will attract millennials and focus more on mixed maker manufacturing and retail. We need more multifamily housing and or office development in order to support the retail in Albany. There are mixed opinions about parking. We had a whole slide about parking, and I decided to just leave it at that because there were some contradictions even on that slide. So no real answer for parking. The city could help facilitate placemaking and density, which is certainly a priority for us, and things like the Complete Streets Plan are focused on that. And the overall thought was that we actually have pretty good customer service. Planning staff provide clear, consistent direction. Certainly not everyone's experience is that, but that was the general feedback we got. Does that answer your question, John? Okay. And speaking of customer service, so I took a look at the customer service survey, and there were 53 responses. There were probably a couple of those looked like spam when I was looking at from the online survey, when I was looking at the comments, but most of them were genuine, and people provided actually pretty good written comments, a lot of comments about our community development staff, counter staff in particular, a lot of contractors who said they work in lots of East Bay cities and they love coming here. They get much more personalized attention than they do in other bigger cities. So that was really good to see. These were the big questions that were asked, and this is the percentage of people who either agreed or strongly agreed. So you can see for all of these things, it was over 70%, and some of it was over 80%, thinking that staff was knowledgeable and able to assist, friendly, professional, efficient, and then the people rated their overall experience. You can see speed and efficiency of service were the lowest, but still pretty high. And I think that comes from some of the comments where people were concerned about projects just taking so long to get through the full process. People who have complicated projects who have to go to planning and zoning are frustrated by that long process. So maybe less about customer service and more about the hoops they have to jump through, which my understanding is I don't think that we have more difficult hoops than any other city would.
No. I think the feedback I've gotten is that, at least from the planning department point of view, that it's a pretty easy planning department to work with comparative to other cities. And like you said, we do give a lot more specialized attention that other cities just don't have the staff or the time to do so with the amount of customers they get every day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, this is a planning survey, or is this an overall permit?
This is just a customer service survey.
For the permit?
No,
Or just
it's
for planning?
It's on our website for customer service, but it sits right here by the planning desk. So I think, and most people kind of have more interaction with the planning counter than other counters. But there was one that was clearly about passports. Someone said they drive here from far away because they love to get passports here. So it's customer service in general, but most of the people are interacting at the planning counter.
What were the other? What were the other levels of? I mean, was it agree, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or was there like neutral?
Yeah, they're like. I didn't create the survey, so it's hard for me to understand. But it was basically numbers. It was like strongly disagree, strongly agree, and then like variations of that in between.
And are you happy with the results?
Yeah, the implementation plan suggests the metric, I think, for customer service is to get 75% satisfaction, and it seems like we've reached that. So that's great. I think we can take a look at any of the suggestions people have and see if we can incorporate them. But overall, people seem to be really happy with customer service, and like I said, I think a lot of the frustration people feel is more about a bureaucratic process that we can't have any effect over. Most of that is probably related to the building code more than the city code. So, all right. So moving on, one last slide here.
Got it. There you go.
Can't find my mouse. Talking about what we're going to be working on in 2019 and 2020. And our big push for 2019 is doing more marketing and outreach campaigns. You guys have talked about this quite a bit. And now I believe we have the bandwidth to be able to do that this year. So we'd like to focus on both attracting new businesses and also customers. And so there's several different places in the implementation plan that focus on outreach, and we kind of want to do all of them at the same time. We think that makes sense. So we'd like to raise awareness about the importance of shopping locally, create a unique branding campaign for print and electronic materials, and create a promotional video, like this is what Albany is, trying to get people to locate their business here and also get people excited about shopping here, make it a real destination. And messaging should capture Albany's unique business community and differentiate from other existing brands. And we're looking to your group to help with suggestions and feedback on marketing materials. So maybe starting the conversation next month about what are we prioritizing, what is the messaging. We got that from when we were talking about the social media in the fall. We got some of that feedback from you, what makes Albany unique. And I think we can kind of take it a step further in developing our marketing materials. we are planning to draft a survey for business owners to evaluate existing efforts related to business attraction, retention, permit, and customer service, and discover new ideas for supporting local business growth. And we also hope that the survey can help us prioritize and inform the implementation plan, because there are a lot of measures in there, and it'd be really helpful to kind of get a sense of what the community really needs. So we're going to draft that in the next month or two, and we will bring you the survey to get your feedback on as well. And then we'll analyze the results and bring those to you too, to kind of get a sense of where we go from there, how to use those results. And then the other big project this year is to update our design guidelines in order to encourage new infill development. We're looking at increasing height limits and other and changing other restrictions to development along San Pablo Avenue specifically. So that's that. Any questions?
Yes.
I have two. I'll start with the last one. Are you looking at changing the size, footprint, area ratio, or height limits on Solano as well?
Yes, it would be height limits and also floor area ratio. It's very early stages and we haven't done any work yet, but that is the goal, to help increase the activation of use within the corridor.
By that, you mean bigger and more dense?
Correct.
And reducing the parking requirement?
I would have to look into that. I'm not sure what the particulars regarding the parking requirements would be, but it would obviously go through the Planning and Zoning Commission as well for discussion as a study session item. And yeah, it's something we'll have to look into as a whole, along with everything else.
So if you would, the plan then for Solano and San Pablo are similar, although they're different areas with slightly different heights and so on. But basically, it's to densify both of them.
Correct.
And then my second question was, what kind of businesses do you think you're going to be shooting for in terms of business attraction?
For the marketing campaign?
Yeah.
That's something that we can discuss.
Sure, but I was just wondering what ideas you had at first.
We haven't discussed it yet. I mean, I think that's a really good opportunity to have a conversation with the committee about what you guys think.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll try to keep this brief. So before I invite people over to my house, I usually clean it up. And I have concerns that as we attract people and encourage people to come look at the city, that there are certain sectors of it, Solano and San Pablo as an example, that I think require more delicate maintenance or more regular maintenance.
Or better buildings.
So if the point is to have people come check it out, come open your business here, come live here, I would like us to also consider the maintenance, the city maintenance as a factor, and maybe even consider having someone dedicated to Solano and San Pablo Avenues as a commercial district. Because there's 4 maintenance people handling parks, and they don't have a lot of time or resources to handle the commercial districts. And if you'd like to go outside and take a walk with me, I'll show you why. So I think part of the conversation should also be, as we attract people here, that we also kind of dust off the shelves and make this an attractive location for them to be. That's just my 2 cents.
I think that's a great idea. I'm curious if there are creative funding strategies, like if other cities have had chambers pitch in for, cleanups of commercial areas. I'm just not sure.
We've discussed a business improvement district for a long time, and I think it's time that we take maintenance very seriously. The graffiti in this district, in the city, is anyway. I think we should look into alternatives.
Yeah.
Because what we have working now is just it's not working.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
Just a question, why couldn't we do a dedicated stream of revenue from the parking tickets on Solano and San Pablo?
From what, sorry?
The parking
Parking
tickets.
tickets.
Parking tickets.
I don't have access to those funds.
But, it's a decision as to sources of income.
Yeah. I think, any other comments? Yes.
I just wanted to take a quick second to thank you, Alan, and your Blue Glove crew for everything you guys do to keep our business district looking really great. I know it's a lot of work, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
And along the same lines, that's a program that was started and is still run by the Solano Avenue Association with big chamber backing. And when you're talking about cleaning up, there's probably no service in the city that does more to clean up than that particular service, and it's free to the city.
But I think go ahead,
Okay,
Sean.
I reached out to Christopher a few months ago by email, and I can try to reach out to you to talk offline about it as far as the chamber's potential role in doing something with the funding. So,
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you can contact me after the meeting.
So maybe for the 6-1, we could talk a little bit more about the maintenance and cleanup as far as initiative, and not only look at existing revenue, but new revenue. Business Improvement District would be, I think, something that we should really seriously look at to see what happened last time if we did it. Could there be funds to investigate it, and what would be the scope of something like that? So maybe we can reserve that for the next item, and as an initiative, we can look into that. You have more of your presentation?
That's it.
Any other comments on the presentation? Oh, yes.
I have said this to several city council people as well, independently, just the fact that I feel like a lot of the city's revenue and stuff is being spent on, throwing a lot of the little parties and, s'mores night or whatever, so that you feel good about being here. But to Alan's point, I think a huge chunk of that money needs to maybe be spread around a little bit further as to the maintenance, because realistically, it's the businesses on Solano that are bringing in the income and stuff to be paying partially for all these parties and stuff. So it should deserve adequate attention as far as being maintained and cleaned properly.
Thank you. My understanding is that the rec department actually, that they operate under the budget based on the fees that they bring in from their classes. So my understanding is that they're not getting general fund money for those items.
Okay. Any other comment? Thank you. Then we will move on to item 6, which is review of 2019-2021 work plan.
That's what we just did, right?
Pardon?
Isn't that what we just did?
No, I think that was the presentation. Now is the review, right?
So you should have work plans. Are there work plans in front of you?
I don't
Thank
think
you for
so.
that presentation, by the way. It was good.
So the work plan, no?
No.
We got it? I do.
You want to pass this one on?
Oh, I guess so, sorry. It's one page. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So this highlights your recent accomplishments in terms of implementing the strategic plan, and then highlights what staff suggests you focus on for the next 2 years. We want to focus on identifying options for a successful farmers market. We've identified someone who might be able to do that. We'd like maybe for him to give a presentation here. We'd love your help informing marketing outreach materials, starting with goals and then working on messaging. We'd like assistance in developing the survey results and your feedback on the analysis of the survey. And then continue to provide ongoing input on potential business uses for vacant properties and new development. Those are the big things. But if you feel like there's anything missing from the list, we can certainly add it. And we can talk about, it sounds like the maintenance thing, we'll talk about exactly how to utilize the committee for that. I'm not quite sure exactly what your role is in maintenance, but we'll talk about that on the staff level.
Well, I think now's the time for us to talk about, I think, the maintenance aspect of it. I think there is potentially a opportunity to investigate this business improvement district item, and maybe that could be a committee that could talk about it and then come back to the committee in the next meeting to investigate and see if there's any legs from the chamber's perspective, from a business perspective, and then talking with staff to see if what would it take to make that happen. Because I think what it typically is for those who may not know, is you create a scope of work, and it could be security, maintenance, marketing, and you have a separate 501c6 or C3 that is made up of the businesses or property owners that put into it, and then they administer that budget. The city collects that assessment and then essentially hands it over to that committee or that organization. My understanding of the business improvement district, there's two types. One is a business and one's a property-based. Business is a 1 year, it has to be renewed every year. And the other one's a 5-year, which is a property-based improvement district. So there's pros and cons to both. So if that could be part of, I don't know, maybe our review of our initiatives, and we could include that since it seems to be of interest to the committee. So I'll throw that out there from a maintenance perspective initially. Thoughts, comments?
So we discussed a business improvement district probably 10 years ago. It met with significant resistance. I think part of the issue back then is it was difficult. Well, we didn't identify where those funds would be used for. We just were talking about the structure and the architecture of a bid. I think having an idea of what you're going to do with the money is a splendid goal. And if it's maintenance, security, or a combination of those things, I'm all for it.
Yes.
So for those of you who haven't actually been involved in bids locally, they can be very controversial. We went through a couple of wars over them. And the thing is this, to me, if we're going to do a bid, it would be best, and this is what I felt when we did the bid in Berkeley, it would be best if it was used in connection or conjunction with the structure. The one we did in Berkeley and the one we tried to do in Albany was designed to be able to improve Solano Avenue. And I'm not trying to exclude San Pablo from the discussion, I'm just describing what happened. And so Berkeley passed the bid and Albany didn't. The thing was that you have an association that is already doing pretty much the work that you want done in terms of trying to get the maintenance done, trying to put on events, and trying to help with vacancies and promote business. And it seemed to me that the best thing that could happen is that when you do a voluntary association like the Solano Avenue Association, you have people who contribute and then other people who ride free. And I don't mean to criticize freeloaders, but there are some people that won't contribute if it's voluntary, which is the reason why I like taxes, because it makes everybody, the generous and the cheapskates, pay their fair share. So if we're going to do it, I'd like to see that we do it in context of the work that's already being done, how to support and promote and to advance that work and to be able to fund it. So that would be the way I would like to approach it. If we're picking goals, we should work very closely with the associations that are already working to try to improve the atmosphere and the viability of the business districts. There is a belief that among some that businesses can be taxed and taxed and taxed. And of course, in this particular region, I and others vote for pretty much every tax that we're asked to support. And that includes for city staff, for fire, for police, for trash collection, whatever, and for schools. And so I think people would support it, provided that we give them a sense of how the decisions are being made and how they can have input into the decisions and how the money is spent. And I think that before we just do it, we should meet with the associations and see how they would see their role in this, because I think that's really where the implementation can happen best. The worst thing that happened with the Berkeley bid was because it was a bid set up in Berkeley, they set up a separate board to do all this consideration that the Solano Avenue Association was already doing. So for anything to get done, you had to go to 2 separate meetings, the same considerations, the same people, and the same votes and decisions were being made. So I'd like to avoid that if possible, make sure that we're working with the commercial associations that are already working on the projects.
Okay, so do we need to vote on something like that? Because I think maybe what we could do is have a couple of folks just investigate it, to your points, and then report back. Like, what's the traction, what's the, is there legs for something like this? And
Well, I'd be
report back.
willing to serve on the committee.
Well, 1 second, yeah, but yeah, but I want to identify who else would like to be on this, and I think 2
Yeah.
or 3, I mean, is
You
too
can have up to 3.
I'm happy to
I-
participate too.
Sorry?
I'm happy to participate in
Yeah,
the committee.
I would recommend that we don't pick the people who are representing any of the associations that do the work, because people might think that there's some kind of a conflict of interest. So if Stephanie and I want to do it, and
You can always talk with them, and
we will definitely do that. And I
When
think,
Sean could be Beacon Home Care as well, but yeah, I see your point. I think
No,
it's
it'd be somebody-
Peer-to-peer, business to
there's
business.
going to
I
be
think it's gonna
somebody
be better.
saying like, oh, so why don't we just have non-association representatives not not be on the board?
Completely agree.
And we will take that all into consideration, if that's okay with the
does
chair.
anyone have, Sean, how do you feel? Okay.
That's fine.
So I see 2, there's room for 1 more.
I'll work with
Great.
you on that.
Okay.
Did you have an, no, you, okay,
I
so we
think
have.
the property owner too, since he has property on Solano, is
Yes.
really kind of one of those, especially if you go with a P bid.
Okay. All right, so good, there we go. So we'll add this to kind of our work plan or the initiatives. And
I-
it could be short-lived, it could be longer-lived, we don't know yet.
Yeah. I want to caution you, if there's 3 of you, Sala, Chasey, and Brown, you can't be working with committee members Charles and Kane, because then that's automatically a quorum. So I just want to caution you about how you communicate.
That's a very good point, actually.
But they can communicate with other staff members or other people on their organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say Jennifer. Yeah, absolutely. And then you can communicate at these meetings as well.
I think I know your point, but go ahead. You have a question?
I
Or-
think that we should have 2 people on the committee, because I imagine that we will end up having conversations with Sean or Alan or Jennifer, and people kind of, it's going to be more problematic if you really think there's a Brown Act. Or, in the alternative, we could simply announce when we're going to do the meetings and invite the public.
I'm happy to give up my spot for you if you'd like, 2 of you to.
Okay.
What if we just announce the meetings?
It's much more complicated than that. Staff's
The
supposed
post,
to
you have to
post and agendize, and then you have to be at a publicly accessible ADA space, and we just really don't have staff time for that.
All right, so let's just go with the 2.
Yeah,
and then-
let's do that.
So we have our 2 members, thank you for allowing that, or understanding that. So we'll add that to the scope here. Should we go down each one of these to kind of talk through them, or just acknowledge it from the staff's perspective? Is that good enough?
Yeah, I don't think you need to go through each of them. I think if you just want to, if there's any comments you want to provide us, this is just a draft before council has their strategic plan. So you'll see this again before you actually approve it. So this is just an opportunity to provide feedback.
Okay, and we're going to get like the marketing materials to look at and give us that
Right.
opportunity to review and
Right.
comment, right? Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
In the past, we've set up our subcommittees as short-term and long-term, which seem very broad. Perhaps we could set up the subcommittees to be a little bit more specific this year, like we are doing with this bid committee, perhaps to address the specific items in
Yeah.
here. So we could have like a farmer's market committee, a marketing committee, so that the work is a little bit more specific.
It's a great idea.
So on farmer's market, who would like to work on that?
Are we there yet?
I refuse.
You refuse? Yes,
I was just wondering if you want to wait until next month when we have all of everything. But if people
So-
want to get to work.
Are we meeting
now?
every month? I thought we weren't meeting. Did I miss that?
I think
thought
you're
we
still meeting
heard-
every month.
Okay, sorry. I thought I read somewhere that it was quarterly or.
I think there was a proposal to reduce the meeting time,
But if we're still
or
monthly-
reduce
okay,
the meeting
that's fine then.
frequency, but
Okay.
I don't think it went
So
anywhere.
in my mind, I was thinking about that. Okay, thank
You
you.
won't get anything done if we meet
I
quarterly.
agreed, but that's what I thought.
Yeah.
heard.
We, I know Stephanie and I, we talked about a farmer's market a couple of years ago. And I'm willing to take it on if you all want to.
Yeah.
This will be round 2 for Stephanie, because remember, she helped develop the one at San Pablo and Solano.
Yeah.
So,
But then I heard we're also going to hear a presentation from someone from the farmer's market next month. Is that what you said?
I don't know when he'll be
Okay.
available, but yeah. we'll
Great, so
bring
we have
something.
2 folks want to work on that.
so just for clarification, is that going to be the Ecology Center again, or is it a different operator?
No, we're looking at the person who operates the Kensington Farmers
Oh,
Market,
cool, all right.
at least getting some advice from him, because that one seems to be very successful.
The people from Picnic are at that market, so they might be a great resource.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
A good reference, maybe.
yeah.
Okay, so I heard a suggestion, we kind of outline a couple people or 3 to work on these bullets, and if need be, so at least have some point persons around it. So might as well go through it. Marketing and outreach materials. I'd be happy to do that one. Anyone else?
Great.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be on that
Okay.
one.
Assist in developing and analyzing results of a survey to evaluate efforts related to business attraction, retention.
Not sure if you need a
Okay,
subcommittee for that at the moment.
Right.
We'll bring it to the whole group.
and then continue to provide.
Maybe the
Go ahead.
last part of it, though, discover new ideas for supporting local business growth. That one,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess that's the purpose of the whole committee, but
yeah. I think perhaps after the survey's complete, a subcommittee to sort of look at next steps, perhaps, but maybe not yet.
All right. Are we okay
Great.
with waiting? Okay, we'll wait on that one. Continue to provide ongoing input on potential business uses for vacant properties and new development. I don't know if that's a committee, yes, go ahead.
I
Maybe
think-
just reports on how we're doing with the vacancies on Solano and,
And brainstorm around that?
yeah.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. Any other comment on that?
Yeah, the Solano Avenue Association contacted Homeroom, the macaroni and cheese, when Cantina del Sol opened up. We made calls to Homeroom, and actually haven't returned them yet, but you have to hunt,
See.
not fish.
So true. Okay. Any other comments from the public on this one? Okay. Great.
one other thing that we may want to discuss is, since committee member Goldman doesn't seem to be on the committee anymore, she was our art committee liaison, so we probably should find someone else to serve in that role.
Anybody would like to step up to that?
Yes, I think I would enjoy that, yes.
Great, thank you.
We have so much art on Solano that we have to maintain.
But really, I think the idea was to understand art's role in the economic development perspective, how that can be an attraction and cultivate it so people are drawn here for not only businesses, but enjoy the amenity of art.
Right.
They have a nice big budget, I think, to spend. Be great to, they have a nice big budget to spend, and it would be great to have, to funnel some of that effort and funding into art in our business district.
Yes.
And it would be great to actually get art pieces on Solano. I mean, real art pieces. There's places for it. And
I know Emeryville has a very successful program of getting art on
Yeah.
to the streets, and it really makes a difference. It's,
I know that we compete favorably with Paris for art on the streets, but we could do better.
Back to the fight of graffiti. There's many utility boxes, opportunities for AT&T stations and that kind of thing to be covered in art, and we'll probably reduce the amount of graffiti on those units. I'm sure you're familiar with the green one around the corner from you that has lots of colorful metaphors on it. Anyway, art prevents graffiti. Yay.
Great, good point. All right, any more on 6-1? Then we'll go to 6-2, selection of chair and vice chair for 2019.
So the process usually works that people make nominations for a chair and then,
Yes, we have a hand.
I'm a big fan of having some continuity and also some new representation. And toward that end, I like what you've been doing as chair, and I would promote you to do that for another year if you'd be willing to. I think you're doing a good job, and I think you're kind of coming into your own. We're stabilizing, and I think that'd be great. And we should pick vice chair today. What my recommendation would be, we would leave the current chair in place and have a new person who hasn't served in that capacity step up to be vice chair and kind of get groomed for service as chair in the future.
I like that idea.
I would second that as well.
So then all we need is somebody willing to serve as vice chair. And I would hope that it would be one of the people who's been on the committee for a little while, and then bring in other folks as.
My feelings on it are the Solano Avenue Association and Chamber of Commerce have been assigned these two seats graciously, and I think that it's a privilege better off for the true volunteers of the group.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to do it because I served for chairs 2 years, and I think I'm a big fan of inculcating new leadership. And, I did 2 years, and I think John's doing a great job. And Stephanie was going to do it, but then got too tied up with stuff. But would you be willing to step up to be vice chair, or maybe
Sure,
you would?
Stephanie, you're up for it?
I'll do it, yeah.
I would
Okay.
support Stephanie. Yeah,
Okay,
she's-
good. All right, and then, we can start bringing in our new members as we move forward. That'd be great.
So is that a motion?
So I'll make a motion to close nominations.
Do we have a second?
I'll-
Do we motion second? Any further discussion? Well, thank you for the vote of
No,
confidence.
you got to do the
What?
vote, call the vote.
Wait, no, I just comment. I just want to thank you for nominating me. How about
I was
that?
going to say, once in a while, we actually vote on these motions.
Okay. So with that, we'll take the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Oh, sorry, additional comments, yes.
Oh, no, we're good. Finished.
good?
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Scratch.
Sorry you raised your hand.
I'm raising my hand for the next one.
All right, that passes.
So with that, then, could we vote on the new chair and the vice chair, or do it by acclamation? I recommend we do it by acclamation.
I'm not sure what the word acclamation
It
means.
means that we all agree that this is a great idea to have John and Stephanie.
Oh,
the chairman.
acclaim. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
So if you would allow,
I would allow it.
so call the vote
Please, can you call the vote?
by acclamation.
I can't read the names, so.
do you want me to read the names?
No, just call for acclamation.
For calling for acclamation?
Just raise your hands.
Raise your hands. All right,
Unanimous.
and it passes.
Thank you.
And thank you, too.
Okay, now we will go to item 7, which is future agenda items. And we had a couple of suggestions for future agenda items.
Yeah, I had discussing new laws for streamlining housing projects. We have probably subcommittee updates now, which would include maintenance and farmers market. And then we'll have the work plan
And bid.
adoption.
I also heard the question around participation in the complete streets.
Oh, yeah.
And so the meeting's Wednesday. So we can't necessarily vote on selecting someone, but if someone will volunteer to do that and report back, and then maybe for the future agenda, we can place something for discussion, either appointment thereof or something to that effect, yes.
So I think it's within the purview of the chair to appoint somebody from the committee to be a spokesperson for the committee, to have some authority. That said, there's not much, I mean, we haven't had a full discussion, so we're not going to be able to authorize much in the way of conversation, but at least we'd have someone who would have some official role at the committee, and I think that would be a good thing for you to do, to appoint somebody in particular,
Okay.
some
So-
willing victim, I mean
Are
volunteer.
you willing to be that person?
So actually, I want to rewind a little bit. One of the items that I keep, one of these other items I keep singing about is if you consider a parking space in town an asset, we actually have no idea what our assets are. We don't know how many assets we've given away or have converted or anything. And as part of the Complete Streets, if you read it, it says to increase, to have improvements for pedestrians and bicycles. There's always seems to be this gap when it comes to automobiles, an elephant in the room that nobody wants to discuss, and some of us drive. So again, I personally have counted 10 parking spaces recently that have been converted to red zones on San Pablo. There needs to be some sort of document or some sort of way of keeping track of our parking availability. So when decisions in the future are made to eliminate a parking space or turn 5 parking spaces into a parklet, we then actually have some data to know what we're losing or what we're gaining. But those numbers don't exist right now. So again, I just think it's important, if you consider a very expensive space on the cement where a car can park, an asset.
Sorry, I just want to say, we didn't have room on this agenda to agendize the parking discussion, but you had asked for it last time, and so Jeff couldn't be here tonight, but he'd like to come give a presentation on parking next month.
Oh, I'd love to hear it. That's awesome.
Is that, no, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I was just going to say, I completely agree that parking as a economic development issue is key, because it's hard to do business when the people, your clients or your customers can't find a space to park, when you have employees who aren't willing to apply for a job at your place of work because there's no place to park. So I think that from an economic development standpoint, it is a really critical thing. I do support going green and encouraging people to use public transit and being bike and pedestrian friendly, but we also have to do it in a way that doesn't sacrifice critical parking spots.
Well, if we are going to sacrifice them, it'd be nice to know that they're being sacrificed, some
Sure.
sort of data, some sort of.
So we'll definitely hear a presentation
Cool.
next month.
That's
And then,
awesome.
but the question is, would you be willing to go to this meeting? And if I appoint you, would you go?
Yes.
And represent that you're from the committee and you're there on an official capacity.
I would consider myself the secondary choice if someone wants to step up, but yeah.
Anyone? Seeing none?
Looks like you stepped
Member
forward.
Kane, would you do it? Okay, so appointed.
Already going anyway, so.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Can I also add to a future agenda item? It doesn't have to be next time, but just sometime. I see the AT&T building on Solano at, I don't know if it's for Ventura or Tulare,
Corner of
as
Ventura and Solano.
an opportunity site. I see, generally people using cell phones, not using dial-up phones anymore, or whatever, landlines anymore. And I'm wondering what their long-term plans for that building are. And it's
Yellow
kind
brick.
of, it's not, it's like,
It's yellow brick.
is it yellow?
His office is right next to us,
Yeah, I just would love to know what their long-term plans are, so that we can be prepared and sort of have a plan.
Are they a member of the Chamber of Solano Association? You guys could find out.
I can talk to them. I've often thought about having a place opened up during Halloween, because it's so creepy and dark in there that it'd be kind of cool to let the kids wander around the first floor. But
that helps.
So Alan, you can report back on that.
Yeah, I can. I'll try. I'll try to get through to them. It's a high-security building, and Robert will tell you, that's very serious stuff going on in there.
And also an update on the Target parking lot, additional building and sale would be awesome.
Yeah, do we have an update yet? Maybe by next month?
Yeah, possibly by next month. I don't think there's any further development on that as of yet.
I have a question regarding that. I know that there was a recent meeting at the city of Berkeley regarding the proposed roundabout and reconfiguration of Gilman Street. Did Albany have representation there?
We didn't have representation that I know of. I know that some Berkeley planners did do a presentation at one of the prior Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, but that was purely informational and very preliminary. But I'm not so sure about that particular meeting.
Jeff may have gone. He's been pretty involved.
I'm just curious to know what happened. I wish I would have went, so.
Anything else?
Well, your suggestion for a hotel at that spot is awesome.
Yes.
Don't hold your breath. That AT&T is going to give up something that it has pre-Prop 13, and it serves them. They're busy. They have uses for it. It used to be a switching station, and you're right, they don't do the same kind of switching, but they have a lot of equipment and a lot of trucks.
Well, and to supply the area with their DSL product.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
They're very busy. They're laying glass. They're doing UVerse. It's, you know.
All right.
I prefer Sonic. By the way.
Anything else? Any other items for the future? Well, the future is here. We are adjourned to the next meeting, which is March 7 at 5 p.m. here at City Hall. Thank you.
And thank you to the general public for spending your time with us this evening.